The power of a questioning, one of the best tools in communication. I personally call it the skill that breaks people's pattern. Because if you want to learn about someone, you just ask. In this video, I want to share with you 3 steps that should help you to improve and maintain that skill. Because you want to learn why you want to ask, how do you want to ask, and where and when do you want to ask. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to ZThink channel. In this video, we will talk about the 3 steps for improving your questioning and how you become able to ask questions. So let's get to the point and get started. Step number 1, don't be afraid of asking questions. If you become afraid, you will get confused. The listener will get probably even more confused than you. Both of you probably get nervous. The point that you want to deliver in the form of a question would be lost at that time. So how would you achieve not being afraid when you ask? Okay, well, there's something I do personally, and especially I do it in class. Every time I go to class, besides being prepared and study material, do the homework, study the lecture before you go to the class, all these things you can do, but if you're still afraid, none of that would work. So what I personally do, I get into the class, and if it's especially the first day of a class, I know like I see a lot of people that I don't know, so the nervousness, even like I'm confident within myself, I always go and like raise my hand, but first day in class you get a little bit nervous. So what I do is I list questions a day before I come to the class. I list a couple of questions regarding materials or let's say syllabus, anything. And I list those questions. Some of the questions I already know the answer for it, and I understand them and I study them. So in class, I start with the questions that I do know the answer for it. And the point of doing that is to reduce the fear and gain the self-confidence within myself. As soon as I gain the self-confidence and get it back to me, because I already have it, I just need to gain the confidence again. And that could happen to anyone. Even if you don't have you're not a confident person, you could do that. And by practicing, you could start with a question that you know. You raise your hand. The professor would answer that question. You already know the answer, so you predict what type of conversation that you would have with the professor, what kind of engagement that you would have. Then you can start with the question that you don't know the answer for it. And at that time, now you are more confident. So here's the thing. Fear is always there. You cannot eliminate the fear. The only way to eliminate the fear, while let's say asking, we want to be specific about that, is by practicing. If you ask in class 100 times throughout the quarter or the semester, then you are confident now you can ask anywhere you go. But if you just ask 1 or 2 times, the next quarter when you come, then you will be still nervous because you haven't practiced enough to be a confident person. So confidence comes from repetition and practicing. So don't worry about that. What you need to do is you need to learn how to raise your hand and just, jump in and say your question. So the first step is don't be afraid, and what you need to do to achieve your fear, to achieve avoiding fear, is basically, or reduce the fear and gain the self-confidence, is by mixing the questions that you already know the answer for it. Start with those questions, and then you're gonna be recognized. Everyone will see you, everyone will recognize you. Then start with the questions that you already know, you don't know the answer for it, and you can raise your hand. Now I guarantee you that you will be 10 times more confident than when you just come to the class, especially first day, and you just ask a question that you don't know. You will think like this is not a smart question, or you'll be nervous if people are gonna laugh at you or get embarrassed. So I would start with a question that I already know the answer for it and I know is a good question. Then I start with a question that I don't know the answer for it. Step number 2, control your biochemistry. If you did the questions and you're going to a conference or a class as a college student, but let's focus on the class. And you made the questions, your goal was to ask a question that you know, and then you ask a question that you don't know after you reduce the fear and you gain the self-confidence. But now there's still a problem. You're still nervous. Before you ask the question, there's something that start happening. When you decide to ask, your heartbeats start racing. You start beating so fast that you feel that everyone in the room start hearing your heartbeats, that's not true. Also, when you ask, your voice start changing. You start having shaking and cracking voice. And I'm not talking about everyone. I'm talking about a lot. Like, I would say some people would have this problem of shaking voice. So what is happening at this point? Your heart rate start racing is because you start breathing kind of fast, and there's some chemicals, including adrenaline, start increasing. And also, when you raise your hand and ask the question, your voice start changing. That's because you're irregular breathing. So what you need to do is you need to just relax. Before you ask, couple seconds before that, just relax, breathe in and breathe out. I mean, it's a couple seconds. You don't want to stay for 15 minutes, breathe in and breathe out. No, just couple seconds, and then ask the question. At the moment that you ask, try to speak slowly, lower your speaking rate. And because the voice, the changing voice, when your voice start changing, that's because your irregular breathing. So what you need to do is you need to speak slowly and listen after you say the question. Listen to the professor. Breathe in and breathe out. Keep relax. You don't have to be showing that in front of the professor. You can just breathe in and breathe out. Relax, engage, show some interest that you are understanding what he's saying or what she's saying, and you'll be fine. And maybe in the first, second, third, fourth time, this is not gonna work. But I guarantee you have to practice. You have to keep doing that multiple times in order to gain the confidence and change that, because there's nothing wrong with you. A lot of people, I have this problem. I don't have the confidence the first time to raise my hand and say something. I have a shaky voice all the time, but I try to reduce that by practicing, put myself in positions and get nervous so I can just reduce that, and after that it'll go away. This takes a while. This takes time. It's not the first time or second time. That was a process. You need to learn that process, or you need to be skillful now so you can master that in the future. So, second step, control your breathing, control your biochemistry. When you ask question, just don't be afraid. Just raise your hand and say the question. Control your voice. Relax, breathe in and breathe out, and you'll be fine. Step number 3, ask the right questions. As most successful people believe, if you ask the right question, you get the right answer. If you notice, I put the third step as the last one, because I believe that if you can accomplish the first two, then you can accomplish the third step. Imagine this, you're in class and you're raising your hand. If you ask any question, including the smart questions, if you are not confident and you still nervous, you're still gonna have the changing voice and or the shaky voice, you can't deliver the smart question to the listener. So let's say you are now at your best performance and you mastered the first 2 steps by practicing and working hard on how to gain the self-confidence and not being nervous. You mastered those 2 steps. How would you come up with good questions? Well, the answers to that is you need to study questions. Watch videos, podcasts, lectures. Listen to people who are successful, leaders, engineers, doctors, surgeons, anything thing, or TED Talks, for example. I personally watch TED Talks all the time. I listen to those speakers and I try to come up with my own questions about those speakers. I learn the way they talk, the way they perform, and I put myself in the audience positions. I come up with open-ended questions. For the people who don't know open-ended questions, it's basically the questions that the answer to that question would be a sentence or two sentences. It's not one word or yes or no. These are the closed questions. I'll give you an example. Closed question would be, is math your best subject? You can say yes or you can say no. That's a closed question. If you say why you go to school, that's an open-ended question, because the answer to that, you can say, well, I go because of this and this and that. And the answer for that would be one or two sentences. So I would try to come up with questions, would be open-ended or closed, and I try to come up with those questions and apply it in real life. Because again, you can come up with those questions, okay, but you need to use it in real life. Practice. The repetition is the mother of a skill, as Tony Robbins said that. So don't wait until someone say that question. This is like most people, a lot of people, I wouldn't say most people, a lot of students especially would do that. They would wait someone else say that question. Or I know people, they would tell the other guy or the other girl, like, can you ask this question for the professor? Why not? Like, why you don't ask that question? So don't be that person. Just step up, learn those skills. Try to come up with your own questions. Try to feed your mind with that skill and try to learn, and you will be just fine. Well, this is the end of the video, and if you guys have any question, a comment, you can leave it below, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.